everyone, Kaiser here, and today I'm back with a new video, which is a custom commission for the snake pillar of Demon Slayer, Obanai Iguro. And this was a commission that I did a while back for one of my friends as a birthday gift. As far as I know, he really enjoyed the figure, which is good to know. But sadly, I never got around to making the video until now. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's get into the work in progress. So for the base figure I used for Obanai, it is a Star Wars Black Series figure, more specifically the Finn in disguise, which I'm guessing happened in the movie. And I used this particular figure because, at least to me, it seemed to fit the design of the Demon Slayer uniform. With it kind of being somewhat baggy towards the pants and having like that sleek black uniform look. That's the vibe I got from it, so that's why I decided to use. The only real modification I did in like heavily modifying it was the waist, since as you can see from the picture, without the skirt piece or the belt like covering it up, there is quite a bit of gappage. So what I did was drill into the torso itself and hauled it out a bit so that it can go deeper on the ball peg, and thankfully it reserved the articulation so it's still able to move around the waist. But it did also help with the scale and just making the figure look more cohesive. After that, I started to sand down the torso in order to make it look a bit smaller and not as bulky, which again worked out pretty well. Then a few other things that I shortened or just fixed were the legs, since Obanai, as far as I know, is kind of a short guy. He's like 5'3". So while I wasn't able to get that exactly, I was able to scale it down a bit where he doesn't look too off with some other anime figures. And again, that seemed to work pretty well. After that, I just started adding some design elements. I painted it black. I added the little buttons, the little sleeves, the collar, all that stuff. And around that time, I also started working on the head. The head is actually one of my old Sanji figureheads, like my very first one. That was a while back. So I used that head and I covered the mouth with a little bit of wrapping, since it is supposed to be covered like that. Then I started adding the hair, and for this I mostly used pieces of paper / cardboard and then sculpted around that in order for it to keep its shape. I also used super glue for this just because it makes the paper or the cardboard more stable. It's less likely to rip. So that's what I did. And I also went and painted his eyes, since he has two different color eyes. It was kind of hard, but I think I got a pretty good look. Not really much to the head itself, but as you can see, I think it came out pretty well. Then after that, it was working on a few other things, such as the sandals, which are just the original feet from the figure. I just added a bit of string to have like the little sandal indentation, I guess you can call it. And the biggest challenge for me, at least, was his sword. Since his sword has like this very snake-like design, which makes a lot of sense, I was wondering how exactly I was gonna be able to do that. I was thinking of making it out of cardboard and stuff, but I'm not sure if it would have been as stable. So I had my mom help me with this. She has shrinky dinks. If you know what those are, then good for you. But for those who don't, it's pretty much plastic that you heat up. And once it's done heating up, it's smaller, but it's a lot more durable. So I used that to make his sword. We traced out a pattern, and after a couple of attempts, we got a pretty good look for it. After that, I just went in and painted it. I painted it silver. I added the wrapping around the handle. A few different pictures showed off like different design for the handle, but I decided to go with the white handle with the purple wrapping. And I also added the hilt, the suba, all the katana stuff you need. And I think it came out pretty well. And I also made his snake. As we know, he all has that little pet snake that he keeps wrapped around his neck. So what I decided to do for that was I actually used a piece of wire And what I did was I got a piece of wire, made a little snake head out of clay, and then I used beads in order to make the main body. And I did this since I thought it would be flexible, and I thought that it would keep the general appearance of a snake, since I used different slightly colored beads to make it have somewhat of a scaly look. And again, I think it came out pretty well. Those were all the basic things I did for Obanai, and I have to say, for my first Demon Slayer character, I don't think it came out too bad, but I'll get into that when we talk about the figure in general. So let's get into that right now. And here we have the custom Iguro figure finish, and I think this came out pretty well. For my first Demon Slayer custom, I do think there are a few areas where I can improve, but it's definitely not bad. This came out a lot better than I expected, so let's get into some of the specifics, like the head, or more so the hair. I do think I could have done a little better on it since it's not entirely anime accurate, but I don't think it looks too bad. And I definitely like how the eyes came out, especially since if you move him to the side, it kind of looks like he's looking at you, so I like that effect. The mask is pretty standard. I was thinking about adding like the lining to it to make it look like it was wrapped around his mouth, but it didn't look too great, so I decided to keep it as is, but I don't think it looks too bad. The torso is also done pretty well, as long as as well as the belt. Pretty simple but effective. And I also painted the symbol or kanji on his back. I'm not 100% sure if this is the snake pillar kanji, but from looking online, this seems to be the one that popped up the most, so that's the one I went with, and I think it came out pretty well. It is pretty simple stuff from the waist down, such as the wrappings and the sandals. Pretty simple stuff, but it's pretty effective. I like how it came out, as you can see. But that's not all. I made him a few accessories to go with him, starting with his coat. I'm not exactly sure what the right term for like the coat that they wear is, but I had help making it from my grandma. She did a really great job. And I also made it wired so that it's able to pose. So I will put that on now. And as you can see, it fits really well on him. The sleeves are nice and poofy, I guess the word is. I do wish they went down a bit more to cover his hands, since that's how it is in the anime. But that doesn't really bother me too much, since they still look really well. Like I said, it's wired, so it is posable, and I really like that I was able to add that in. But that's not all, since I also made his sword, which I had help from by my mom. As you can see, it is this weird snake-like type blade. I feel like I've seen this in other shows before, but this is pretty much what it looks like. And the way that we were able to do this is by using shrinking things. And I'm not sure if anybody's heard of that. Well, I'm pretty sure people have heard of it. But pretty much, you take a thin piece of plastic and put it in a oven to heat it up. And if there's a certain pattern or shape you want, it will shrink down while also forming into a much harder, sturdier plastic, which is what we did here for that blade. And again, it came out really well. After that, I painted it the right colors, and I also did the hilt and stuff. As you can see, I added the gold around the bottom. I added the hilt. I forgot what this is called, forgive me. And I also added the purple thread to act as the wrapping. Like a few images also show it being different colors, but I decided to go with the purple coloring since I think that fit best. So give me another. And here you can see him holding his weapon, and it looks pretty good in his hand. Again, I really like how this came out. And for his last accessory, I made his snake, the one that goes around his neck. This is made out of wire, beads, and some clay for the head and the tail, or at least the end of the tail. And I did this not only to make it easier to wrap around his neck, but so it's also articulated since there's a wire in there. And I'm really glad that I was able to think of this, since It works pretty well for a snake. And as you can see, I used different color beads to kind of like simulate scales, since I wasn't really going to be able to get that normally. But again, it looks pretty well, so one more time. And as you can see, the snake is now around his neck, and it looks really well. It really ties the whole look together. And again, I really like how this came out for my first Demon Slayer character. So let's get into some articulation. The head can swivel side to side, and it can go up and down. The ball peg and like the neck joint are a little bit tight, so it's not able to get that completely on camera, but you know it's there. The arms can move out, and they can go forward and back. He does have a elbow joint and a swivel, and his wrist has a swivel and a hinge. His torso is able to move forward that much, back that much. It does cause a little bit of gapping, as you can see, but it can move back. It can go side to side, again with the gapping, and he has a waist swivel. His legs can go that far forward, not too much back. He does. Oh, and they are able to go out to the side. It is a little bit tight, but it's good enough. He does have a thigh swivel, double jointed knees, which are a little bit tight once again. He does have an ankle pivot, and it can go up and down. So the articulation is pretty good on this figure. Like I said, some parts of it are tight, but it's not too like brutal. So you can still get some really good poses out of this guy. I was really worried about the waist, since I wanted that to be pretty articulated, you know, to get him into some cool poses. And thanks to the modifications that I did, he's able to do that, especially with that ab crunch forward. It's pretty good. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this custom Iguro figure. It was really fun to work on a Demon Slayer character, especially when my first one was one of the 9 Hashira. And seeing that this specific body works very well for Demon Slayer characters, you'll be seeing a lot more Demon Slayer characters coming from me, especially on this body, and especially a few famous characters, since it works really well for those characters. I really hope the client enjoys this figure. I made sure to like make it as accurate as possible, give him some of the most important accessories, and I think I did a pretty good job, in my opinion. So yeah, I hope he enjoys it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have a few more coming up. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.
As I pump you full of venom.